road to Innsmouth. The hearse rolled through the fog like a ghost that hadn't realized it was dead. Its black paint drank the moonlight, and the engine's low growl echoed off the cliffs that hemmed the coast. Agios kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the butt of his revolver. His dark hair fell into his eyes, and the cigarette between his lips burned down to a thin ember. Beside him, Mandy flipped through a folder thick with yellowed newspaper clippings. Her nails tapped against the dashboard in rhythm with the rain. You know, she said, most people drive away from towns that smell like rotten secrets. Agios smirked. Most people don't get paid to dig them up! The sign for Innsmouth appeared out of the mist. Letters half-eaten by rust. The wood warped like something that had tried to crawl out of the sea. The air changed as they crossed the boundary. It was heavier, salt-choked, and carried a faint stench of decay. The town lay ahead, a cluster of sagging roofs and broken windows. The streets slick with rain and silence. Mandy closed the folder. You really think the Marsh family's hiding something worth all this trouble? I think, Agios said. When a whole town starts worshipping fish gods and people vanish into the surf, there's always paperwork somewhere that explains why. The hearse rattled down the main street. A few figures moved in the shadows. Pale faces, bulging eyes, lips that didn't quite close over teeth too sharp for human comfort. They watched the car pass, their expressions unreadable. Agios felt the weight of their gaze like cold fingers on his neck. Locals look friendly, Mandy muttered. Friendly enough to eat you alive, Agios said. They parked near the old Gilded House Hotel and sign swinging weakly in the wind. The yellow building leaned like it was tired of standing inside. The lobby smelled of mildew and old tobacco. A clerk with the face that seemed half-melted greeted them with the croak. Rooms? He rasped. Just one, Agios said. We won't be staying long! The clerk slid a key across the counter. His face was gaunt and his eyes were almost completely black. Mandy's eyes widened, but Agios didn't flinch. He'd seen worse in alleyways behind Boston speakeasies. Thanks, he said, pocketing the key. Say, you wouldn't happen to know if the Marsh House still stands? The clerk's replied, best not go there. He snarled, bad-tied. Bad blood, Agios smiled thinly. I've got both. Part 2. The house on the hill. The Marsh House loomed over Innsmouth like a specter. Its windows were blind. Its grand architecture, however, was remarkably intact, though the east wing roof did sag from neglect, and the iron gate creaked open as if welcoming them in the rain. It stopped, but the air was thick with the smell of brine and rot. Mandy adjusted a trench coat and flashlight. You sure about this? Agios lit another cigarette. Sure as hell. They stepped inside. The foyer was a cathedral of dust. Portraits of long dead marshes stared down from the walls, their eyes painted to lifelike. The floorboards groaned underfoot. Somewhere deep in the house, water dripped steadily like the ticking of a clock that had forgotten time. Mandy shone her light across a table stacked with ledgers and seed charts. Looks like they were tracking shipments. Agios flipped one open. The handwriting was elegant, but the cargo listed was anything but ordinary artifacts. Origin unknown, destination deep water vault. He murmured, sounds like a place you don't come back from. A sound echoed from upstairs, a slow dragging shuffle. Mandy froze. Agios drew his revolver. Stay behind me, he whispered. They climbed the staircase, each step a protest. The walls were damp, the wallpaper peeling in long strips like shed skin. At the top, a corridor stretched into darkness. Doors lined both sides, some ajar, others sealed with rusted locks. From one of the rooms came a faint glow, greenish, pulsing like the heartbeat of something alive. Agios pushed the door open. Inside was a study, its air thick with salt and decay. A desk sat beneath the window, covered in papers and strange carvings. On the wall hung a map of the coastline, marked with symbols that looked like rooms. And in the corner, half hidden by shadow, stood a tank. Glass cracked, water murky, something moving inside. Mandy stepped closer. Is that the thing inside pressed against the glass? Its face was human once, but now it was something else. Scaled gill, eyes wide, luminous. It opened its mouth, and the sound that came out was not speech, but a bubbling croak. Mandy stumbled back. God, adios. He grabbed her arm. Don't look at it, look at the papers. On the desk lay a folder stamped with the Marsh family crest. Inside were letters, correspondence between Obed Marsh and unnamed associates. The words were faded but legible. The covenant must be maintained. The deep ones demand tribute. The bloodline ensures favor. Agio's jaw tightened. So it's true, the Marshes made a deal. Mandy's voice trembled with what? Agios looked at the tank with the sea. The descent. The rain had stopped, but the house still dripped. Water slid down the walls like sweat from a fever dream. Agios crouched beside the dusk, running his fingers along the warped floorboards. Beneath the dust he felt the fate seemed too straight, too deliberate. Trapdoor, he muttered. Mandy not beside him, flashlight trembling in her hand. You think it leads to the vault? I think it leads somewhere the Marshes didn't want anyone to find. He pried the boards loose with the butt of his revolver. The wind came up with a groan, revealing the narrow stairwell spiring into darkness. The air that rose from below was cold and wet, thick with the smell of salt and rusted iron. Mandy's swallow smells like the ocean. Agios lit his last cigarette. Then we're heading the right way. The signs won down forever. The deeper they went, the more the walls changed. Brick giving way to stuff, stone giving way to something older, slicking green. Coughed at symbols that pulsed faintly in the light. The sound of the sea grew louder, though they were still far from the shore. Mandy's voice was barely a whisper. Agios, these markings, they're not human. He touched one, it was warm. Neither are the people upstairs. At the bottom of the stairs lay a tunnel, half flooded, the water black and still black. Ran along the ceiling, dripping steadily. The air vibrated with the low hum, like a choir singing from beneath the waves. They followed the tunnel until it opened into a vast chamber, the deep water vault. The ceiling arched high above, lost in shadow. Stone pillars rose from the water, each carved of faces that beneath a fish now man. In the center stood an altar, and upon it a chest bound in iron and coral. Mandy's breath caught that must be it. Agios stepped forward and boots splashing through the shallow water. Stay close. The chest was locked with a mechanism that looked more biological than mechanical. Tendrils of metal twisted like veins pulsing faintly. He drew his knife and sliced through them. The chest shattered, then opened with a hit.